First, let's start with what's just happened at SDNY, Southern District of New York, the federal prosecutor's office there. The New York Times was first to report on these developments today, and here's how they led their initial report. Quote, Manhattan's U.S. attorney on Thursday resigned rather than obey an order from a top Justice Department official to drop the corruption case against New York City's mayor, Eric Adams. Then, when DOJ officials transferred the case to the Public Integrity Section at Main Justice in Washington, which oversees corruption cases, the two men who led that unit at Main Justice, quote, also resigned. NBC News' Ryan Riley reports tonight that 3 additional officials in the Public Integrity Section at Main Justice also resigned after meeting the same top Justice Department official, who is Trump appointee and Trump defense counsel, acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove. So if you're wondering what kind of day it's been thus far at the U.S. Department of Justice, it's a 6 resignation kind of day thus far. But just to get the import here, just back up for a second. The mayor of New York City is Eric Adams. He's a Democrat. He's elected in 2021. The people of New York who elected Adams largely on his tough on crime platform would soon learn that federal prosecutors at SDNY in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, federal prosecutors started investigating him in 2021, even before he took office, because they were looking into what appeared to be serious irregularities in his campaign fundraising. And this past September, Eric Adams became the first sitting mayor of New York City to ever be charged with federal crimes. He was indicted on a whole raft of charges involving allegedly fraudulent campaign contributions, also a rip-snorting alleged bribery scheme in which he allegedly took campaign funds and gifts and luxury travel from agents of the government of Turkey in exchange for doing favors for the government of Turkey. But the charges themselves were pretty straightforward corruption charges. Local politician charged with accepting money he's not legally allowed to accept. And in some cases, he's charged with allegedly doing official favors in exchange for that money. Prosecutors in SDNY indicted Eric Adams in September. Mayor Adams vowed to stay in office, vowed to fight the charges. He was given a trial date of this spring, April of this year, to have his day in court. But then Donald Trump was sworn in as president, and this week, Donald Trump's Justice Department ordered the federal prosecutors in SDNY to drop their case against Adams, to drop the charges. Not because they said they had some new evidence vindicating Adams, but because, according to the new Trump appointees at Main Justice, the mayor was the victim of a political persecution. But here is something to note about the way they ordered the charges dropped against Mayor Adams. And I don't think this has gotten enough attention. In the memo from, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, who's the acting Deputy Attorney General, Emil Bove, the Southern District prosecutors were told by him that they needed to dismiss the charges without prejudice, which is a legal term that means the charges could be brought later, could be brought back again at a later time. The charges against Eric Adams, quote, shall be reviewed by the confirmed U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York following the November 2025 mayoral election, based on consideration of all relevant factors. So we're putting these charges on ice for now, so Eric Adams can run his re-election campaign without technically being under indictment, and then we'll see how we feel. And maybe we'll bring the charges back based on consideration of all the relevant factors. Talk about having leverage over somebody, right? It prompted this headline from Josh Marshall at his news site TPM, quote, Donald Trump is now the mayor of New York. Quote, think what this means. Adams isn't off the hook. He's essentially been given 10 months to perform for his freedom, to perform for Donald Trump. And what might the Trump administration want from the mayor of America's largest city? Well, from the Justice Department memo ordering SDNY to drop the charges, quote, the pending prosecution has unduly restricted the mayor's ability to devote full attention and resources to illegal immigration. Oh, I see. Sure enough. Got it. And Sure enough, today, Eric Adams met with Donald Trump's point man on mass deportations, and Mayor Adams promptly announced that he's going to start allowing federal immigration agents into the city's biggest jail complex, even though there is a city law explicitly against that. Interesting how much he wants to please Donald Trump right now, right? I wonder why that is. But here's why today was a 6 resignation day at the U.S. Justice Department. Because even though the acting Deputy Attorney General, Trump's personal lawyer, Emil Bove, ordered that the charges against Eric Adams had to be dropped. He ordered those charges to be dropped on Monday. We've been sort of watching all week, wondering what's going to happen, because here's Thursday, and as of this morning, those charges still had not been dropped. He ordered them dropped on Monday. What's going on? Well, the reason they hadn't been dropped is because SDNY said, no, we're not going to do it. The acting U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York said, talk to the hand. Now, this was somebody specifically chosen by Trump to fill this role until they got their own nominee confirmed. She is a registered Republican. She's a prosecutor with what the New York Times calls bulletproof conservative credentials. She's in the Federalist Society. She clerked for Scalia. But when she was ordered by Main Justice to drop the charges against Mayor Adams, this acting U.S. attorney, her name is Danielle Sassoon, she wrote this remarkable memo to Pam Bondi, Trump's newly confirmed attorney general. She said, quote, I deem it necessary to the faithful discharge of my duties to raise the concerns expressed in this letter with you and to request an opportunity to meet to discuss them further. The reasons advanced by the acting Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Bove, for dismissing the indictment are not ones I can in good faith defend as in the public interest and as consistent with the principles of impartiality and fairness that guide my decision-making. Mr. Bove proposes dismissing the charges against Adams in return for his assistance in enforcing federal immigration laws, analogizing to the prisoner exchange in which the U.S. freed notorious Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout in return for an American prisoner in Russia. Such an exchange with Adams violates common sense beliefs in the equal administration of justice, the Justice Manual, and the rules of professional conduct. Adams has argued in substance, and Mr. Bove appears prepared to concede, that the mayor should receive leniency for federal crimes solely because he occupies an important public position and can use that position to assist in the administration's policy priorities. In your words, and she's quoting Pam Bondi to herself here, quote, DOJ will not tolerate abuses of the criminal justice process, coercive behavior, or other forms of misconduct. Danielle Sassoon says then, quote, dismissal of the indictment for no other reason than to influence Adams's mayoral decision-making would be all three. Rather than be rewarded, Adams's advocacy should be called out for what it is, an improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case. Although Mr. Bove disclaimed any intention to exchange leniency in this case for Adams's assistance in enforcing federal law, that is the nature of the bargain laid bare in Mr. Bove's memo. That is especially so given Mr. Bove's comparison to the Viktor Bout prisoner exchange, which was quite expressly a quid pro quo, but one carried out by the White House and not by the prosecutors in charge of Bout's case. Ms. Sassoon notes in a footnote here, and this is like actually maybe the most explosive thing in the entire thing. This is a footnote. She says, quote, I attended a meeting on January 31st, 2025 with Mr. Bove, Mayor Adams' counsel, and members of my office. Mayor Adams' attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist with the department's enforcement priorities only if the indictment were dismissed. Mr. Bove admonished a member of my team who took notes during that meeting and directed the collection of those notes at the meeting's conclusion. And finally, there's this. Quote, as you know, our office is prepared to seek a superseding indictment from a new grand jury under my leadership. We've proposed a superseding indictment that would add an obstruction conspiracy count based on evidence that Mayor Adams destroyed and instructed others to destroy evidence and provide false information to the FBI. And that would add further factual allegations regarding his participation in a fraudulent straw donor scheme. So she's like, no, we're not dropping this. Also, you want to talk about this quid pro quo thing? And check my footnote in terms of your behavior here. But also, we have another indictment of Eric Adams coming soon. So it's not like just existing charges that are going to be put on ice. You're going to have to put the upcoming charges on ice as well. Danielle Sassoon ends the letter with this, quote, because the law does not support a dismissal and because I'm confident that Adams has committed the crimes with which he's charged, I cannot agree to seek a dismissal driven by improper considerations. I understand my duty as a prosecutor to mean enforcing the law impartially, and that includes prosecuting a validly returned indictment, regardless of whether its dismissal would be politically advantageous to the defendant or to those who appointed me. In the event you are unwilling to meet or to reconsider the directive in light of the problems raised by Beauvais's memo, I'm prepared to offer my resignation. It has been and continues to be my honor to serve as a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. Very truly yours, Danielle R. Sassoon, U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York. The hero was silent, but everybody could see it there. Apparently, Pam Bondi declined to meet with Danielle Sassoon because today Emile Beauvais sent a new letter to Danielle Sassoon saying, quote, your resignation is accepted. He also says that assistant prosecutors on the case are to be put on administrative leave immediately. And he says the Mayor Adams case is going to be transferred to the Justice Department in D.C. because of her, quote, insubordination at SDNY. But again, this did not go the way they intended. Once they transferred the case to Main Justice, they ran into more problems when the top two officials overseeing the Public Integrity Unit at Main Justice also promptly resigned. They said, we're not doing it either. They said, we also will not go to court to ask the court to drop these charges against Mayor Adams. The top two people in the department said that at Main Justice, and then three more people in that department resigned as well. So as of tonight, the Justice Department is down 6 prosecutors total, and the charges against Eric Adams still have not been dropped.